Hello, I hope this finds you well. My name is Kat. If you're new here, if you're returning, it's lovely to see you again. I have some projects that I'm excited to share with you today. Some finished objects, a finished object, some spinning and some works in progress. It is a Thursday morning / afternoon. It's the crux of the day, and yeah, I've got a busy week coming up, so I thought I would take the opportunity when I had it to sit down and share. And yeah, I'm a little bit caffeinated today. I did sit and have a coffee while I knitted with a lovely friend of mine, and I've got a peppermint now to kind of keep being refreshed, but hopefully to ground me slightly. Yeah, I have a little bit of footage from the weekend that I'll put at the end of this episode. It was an anniversary that I went to kind of commemorate with my family in East Anglia. So I had a little walk around Walberswick on the Saturday morning and the Sunday morning too. And hopefully you'll be able to see how stark the weather was between the 2 days. It's been like that loads recently. It's gone from sunny 22 degrees on one day to the next day flip-flopping to be like, I don't know, 16 degrees cold and rainy. And I feel like everyone's bodies are going to be a little bit shocked because of it. But yes, so that will be at the end if you fancy sticking around. In the meantime, let's talk fibre stuffs. Yeah. I am wearing my elf slippers. These are the elf slippers. I have two on. I wear these all the time around the house. I've added a leather sole to them now, which I might talk about a bit more in the future. I'll record the process of doing the same to Alex's. It's very simple and straightforward, but in case you're interested. But these are one of my favourite items that I've ever knitted. The yarn was a batch that we had spun from locally sourced fleeces. There's Jacob and Valet Blacknose in here, both really gorgeous breeds. And yeah, they've worn really well. I've really got my use out of them already, and they're still going pretty strong. The pattern originally was in the 52 Weeks of Socks book, but now it's available individually. I can't remember if there was anything that I struggled with. I feel like it was a straightforward pattern, and I knitted these up super quickly, and I've knitted a few pairs as gifts. I don't often share what's on my feet, but I felt like it was about time to share the slippers. I am also wearing a framework bralette. You will not be able to see it. I've got it underneath a dress and a top. Won't show you because I've got a dress on, but I think it's important, if I can, to share the things that I'm wearing consistently so that you know how often they are getting worn. It is just an item that I've knitted quite a few times at this point, and I do wear a lot, so I thought it was important to share. I'll share more about this one because you can see it. This is the Rizzo by Poison Girls. It is one that I knitted ages ago. I really like it. I knitted it using a yak silk blend, and the colour has faded loads, but I still really like it. It is still in quite consistent rotation. Even though it is a singles, so it's not plied, it's just spun, and it's a single ply of yarn. I've really noticed how much this has lasted in comparison to merino singles. It hasn't pilled really. I mean, there's a tiny bit at the ends, but it really hasn't, and it's just got all the strength, and yeah, I really, really rate it. Oh dear, the sun is coming and going. Hopefully it's not too changey on here. Yeah, I really like this piece. I love the construction of it. I really am happy with the fit. Yeah, I would knit it again. I think, if I remember, it's one where you pick up a shoulder, the back shoulder, pick up the other back shoulder and join them, and then pick up the front shoulder, pick up the other front shoulder, join them, and you're knitting flat until the underarm. and then you join in the round. I love the detailing and the moss stitch texture at the neck. Yeah, this is very bright. Should I turn it down one? But it keeps changing. And if you've been here for any length of time, you might notice that this is a new cardigan. I'm very happy with it. This is one that I self-drafted using yarn that I dyed myself. Before we went to unravel, whilst I was editing, got quite inspired and decided to dye up some yarn in kind of, I thought it was a bit like Aurora Borealis but from the forest, and someone said it's sort of like seaweed in a dark sea, and I'm like, yeah, that also rings very true. I knitted this using 8mm needles. I did say that I wanted to knit small needle projects, and here I am using 8mm needle again, but I felt like this was the right gauge for this yarn. I think any tighter and it would have had less of the drape that it's got, and I think it's quite a nice amount of drape. I did a very simple bit of maths to come up with a raglan cardigan for myself. I didn't do any shaping in the arms, and I didn't do any shaping in the body. What I should have done is some short rows at the back just to lower it. That is on me, and if I had enough of the main yarn I would go in and make that adjustment, but I don't, so I'm not. But here she is. Hopefully that was enough of a view of it. Yeah, so I did dye up one big skein, and then I chucked in a emergency skein, which I did end up using quite a lot of, which had previously been dyed with cabbage, so it altered the pH level of it quite a lot, and as such it was very different in the pot to the rest. I only needed it for the cuff of this sleeve and used it for the edging, which was my intention. Once I realised I was going to run out, I'm really happy with it. So this is like I said, a very simple raglan. I just cast on at the neck, increased down to the underarm, put the underarm stitches on hold and knit the body, and then went in and knitted these sleeves. I was thinking of doing even more voluminous sleeves, but after trying it on, I was like, actually, I think this width is pretty perfect. I then did a quick round of decreases just to pull it in a little bit, and a nice chunky I cord bind off, which I also did for the collar. So here. I do think it looks a bit 1950s bed jacket, which I'm not upset about, to be honest. I've worn this thing quite a lot already, and I say this a lot, but I really have. Like, it is really good to just throw on, much like my black cardigan was before I shrunk it. R.I.P. Yeah, I'm really chuffed with this. It goes really nicely with this top, and I've been wearing it as a pairing together frequently ever since it was finished, actually. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say. The maths I did for this were very simple. Get away, little fly. Just a simple raglan construction. If I did it again, I definitely would add those short rows. I might do fewer stitches for the sleeves and then increase them, but this is me done with this project. I think at this point I don't need to knit it again. I'm very chuffed. And just in case, if you are after a mohair cardigan that's fluffy and in a textured stitch, this was inspired by the Airy cardigan by Fibre Knitwear. It's definitely not the same. I used a different stitch pattern. Oh, hello, troublemaker. We have a kitten. No, she's interested in food. So I think that uses like a seed stitch or a moss stitch, whereas this is a broken seed stitch, and I just made it up myself. The cardigan that was inspired by has frilly bits on the ends of the sleeves, and they get more voluminous towards the end. So there's lots more shaping and a lot more. Yeah, it's just a beautiful pattern, but I wanted to use fibre that I already had, and this is what I came up with. So there you go. I don't know why I'm funny about it now. Let's wait for little Audrey to finish eating before we carry on. It was definitely second breakfast time. Yeah. So it was definitely time for second breakfast. Oh, she's... Kitten. What you doing? You wanna come and show your beautiful face? Oh, you can. She's like, no. Oh, okay. Are you so sweet? Little Audrey is just the best. Yeah, so I don't really have loads to say on this one, I guess. But I knitted it. I'm really happy. It is very cozy. I did knit the sleeves slightly longer than I normally would, so if I let my arms hang, it covers my first knuckles, but if I, move my arms properly, it does come back up to bracelet length, so it's still quite practical. And because I left them a little bit wider than, cinching it right in, I don't know why I always say cinching, but I like that word, it does fall down and gives me full movement, and I can tuck it up if I am doing a washing up or anything too mucky. I'm very happy with it. I don't tend to put buttons on my cardigans. That's just something I don't really do. If I'm going to want something buttoned up generally, I can use a shawl pin or I'll just put on a jumper. And I have a couple of cast-ons to share. So the first one that I have is knitted using the Croft, which is a 100% Shetland Islands wool from West Yorkshire Spinners. I think this is just wool and has other breeds in it, but it does feel as soft as a Shetland / merino-y type fibre. It is really nice to work with. It's springy, a little bit drapey, and I'm knitting it in black because black. And it is, I just sat on my feet. It is the Chained Oblivion cardigan by Knitting Nakabi, who is Kelsey, and it is a bottom-up cardigan with all over seed or moss stitch and cables that run up the front and up the sleeves, I believe. So I have done a little bit. We're up to here. And this is for a few reasons. I am really enjoying this knit. However, when I first cast it on, I think I was just in the mindset of, oh, I've got a test knit, I best get it cast on, and wasn't really focused. So I did the ribbing with no issue at all. But then I set up the cables on one side wrong. And for some reason, instead of tinking back, I panicked and ripped it all back. And then I did it a second time. I don't really know, well, I know what went wrong, and I can't show you the bit of paper. And it is on me, not being quite with it, knitting on black in the dark with no glasses on. I do now have a light, which is amazing. I don't know why I wasn't using it beforehand. But I fixed my mistake. I did a little bit of colouring on the chart and the abbreviations, which are all on the same page, so it's all colour coded, and now it is a breeze and not quite flying off the needles because I'm still trying to knit on this during the daytime and when I have a bit of focus, just until I've got the cables really in my head. They're not difficult, but they do require 2 needles, which I've never done before. It's really not very difficult. It's exactly the same. There's just a bit more going on. But my cable needle is too big, so it's forcing the stitches on a bit. So I might have to make another cable needle, but that's a future me thing to think about. But I am really enjoying it. I can't, say much more than I am enjoying knitting this wool. Even though I ripped it out and knit it twice, it still seems to be pretty happy with me. It's not splitting or anything. I have gone down a full needle size. Nope, more than that. I've gone down 1.5 mil from the designer, and I think that's really a testament to why you need to swatch. Lots of other knitters have changed sizing on this project. Some people have actually opted to change weight of yarn. I haven't. I was tempted, much like my lovely friend Frida, who is going to knit it using a fingering weight yarn and lace. I was tempted to do the same thing, but this was a very affordable option for buying a proper woolly wool that is very soft still. I would, next to skin for most people, I would say. Don't hold me to that, we're all different, but it is very, very soft and a perfect black. My little wobble after I'd got it all set up was that because it's a commercially dyed black and not a gorgeous, like slightly tonal one like Kelsey's project, is that it didn't look quite as luxurious. But now I'm a bit further along, I'm quite happy with it. I think I was a bit silly to think that. And yeah, really enjoying the project. Quite looking forward to getting further along. I am going to talk to Kelsey about knitting the sleeves top down. So the way she's written it is the body bottom up and the sleeves bottom up, but I do have a very different proportioned body. Apparently, I've really acknowledged this more recently. And I do think that it is important that if I'm going to do the pattern as it suggests and it has thumb holes, so it's got big voluminous sleeves, ribbing and a thumb hole in it, I'm going to want to make sure it's exactly the right length. And whilst I can get a really good idea from the pattern and the instructions, I think I would feel much happier being able to try it on fully as I go rather than doing it ahead of time. So I think that is something I'm going to do, and I'm going to chat to her about. But yeah, really nice pattern that I'm very excited to continue with. I think this is quite special in a different way. I love thinking about projects and what the aspect of them that's bringing the most joy. And Kelsey, who designed this, is in my long-term D&D knitting campaign, and almost everyone in my other campaign that also knits is knitting this as a test, and I just think that's really funny that we're gonna all have matching cardigans designed by one of the players in another group, and we're all wearing, yeah, I just feel like that's very sweet. And it is Dungeons and Dragons inspired, so it's inspired by one of the naughty people in campaign 2 of Critical Role. Anyway, yeah, what do you think about sitting here? This is different. I feel like, even though the lighting is absolutely wild today, which I do apologise, but I can't stop it being sunny and cloudy, I feel like this spot might be less orange cast. I have a very orange living room, but I feel like here might be better visually. I don't know, let me know. It's weird not sitting on the sofa and having a chat, but I think maybe this is nicer. The next cast on that I have is in... I couldn't resist casting it on, and I'm really in a space where I'm trying to reduce projects, but I also don't want to stop creativity and like the inspiration when it comes. Certain things I'm like writing ideas down or drawing sketches, but others, if there's a draw, I think do it. So even though I wasn't going to cast this on, I did. And I'm using this gorgeous rum and raisin DK from the Royal Wool Company. And I spoke about this kind of at great length in the Unravel episode I recently released, so I won't gush too much about this. But Anton raises his own sheep, and this is a blend of some... I don't know why I can't think of it. It's on here. Zorbles from the Kerno Shepherdess. Yeah. Her name's Sarah. She is from West Cornwall and is 19 years old, I believe. Has her own flock of sheep. And then the rest is his own Wensleydale. Yeah. So 70% Sarah's gorgeous yarn and 30% Anton's. When I saw it, I was just in awe. I loved the story, and it's just gorgeous. And this one is Toff DK. Which was very kindly sent to me from a lovely lady named Natasha, who I met at Unravel the very first time I went. So these are like my very special Unravel yarns. And I had thought about making myself a soiree from this, which is a pattern by Emily Foden. But I suddenly remembered the jumper that I saw in Norway that, I'm sorry Chloe, hi again, it's getting odd. This happens, I'll like mention Marina all the time and then I'll have a conversation, like it's weird. But Chloe's husband was wearing this beautiful jumper and I was like, that is lovely. And Chloe was like, I knitted it. And it's my friend's design, and the designer actually reached out and was like, I'm really happy to send it to you if you want. And I was like, no, I understand that especially if you're a new designer, like all of the things that go along with it, I would love to support you. So I had a thing and I was like, I'm sure I'll have enough yarn to knit this jumper. And I did. So I've used it, purchased the pattern, and it wanted to knit itself. I knitted this on Friday night through Sunday and then a little bit this morning. And it's on larger needles, and I've got, I don't know, half of the body done. It's amazing what colour work and just joy can do for getting a project going. I'm really, really enjoying it. This is the, I want to say Algiz, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, by Nordic Noob Knits. It is a bottom-up jumper with sleeves that you knit bottom up that I'm going to modify to do top down again. It has lots of colour work inspired by Viking finds. I think I want to say Swedish Viking textile finds and runes, so it was quite appropriate that my recent love affair with Viking age things and textiles, and so it just feels really right to have this project knitted in all of the things that make my little body go, yeah, I can't stop squishing it. It's a little bit sheepy, but it's not too sheepy. I know we all think about the smells. Sorry, very excited. The It is a yoked jumper too, so once I get to the underarms I will start decreasing, I believe, sort of in the colour work, which I'm quite excited to do. I haven't done a yoke in a little while, and I haven't done a colour work yoke in what feels like forever. I think the last one was January. I loved knitting this so much. I would say the sizing needs to be improved a little bit. There is a limited amount of sizes. I think it's one of these first designs that happens, but we'll have some open conversations and hopefully that'll expand. But I really love this jumper. I didn't check the sizing before I purchased it, and it is what it is. I just wanted to knit the jumper and I did, which doesn't happen too often. It could be easily modified to be larger and smaller with yarn changes. I think it would be beautiful as a fingering weight jumper and as an Aran weight jumper. I am using DK for it, and I believe it is Let Lopi. That is the recommended yarn. But Pluto Lopi would also be gorgeous. Yeah, it feels really nice to be knitting a 100% natural woolly wool jumper in natural colours. I haven't done that in, I don't know, quite a while, I think. Mostly I've knitted using dyed yarn. And yeah, I'm going to try and save this project for... Oh, where's my stitch marker? Yeah. I'm going to be trying to save this project at the moment for times where I am chatting to people, since it's a simple stockinette, focusing on the test knit during the daytimes. So if I knit at lunch, say, and then this is my sort of travel project, or like chatting project. I am knitting this with the intention for it to be shared, so both Alex and I can wear it. The only adjustments that I'm going to make to the pattern at the moment, I'm going to knit it to the length it recommends, but I'm going to add in a few short rows just at the back. I know from experience that for me, but also Alex, that really helps make a jumper look a lot nicer and fit much better. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try and do that in a little bit before I get to the underarms. So I'm going to do it higher up the back rather than lower down. Yeah, hopefully Alex is very excited to wear it, and I really am too. It's just going to be a perfect jumper. I'm so excited to wear it. Put it down, Cat. Put it down. I've not done loads on it, so again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. Ooh, I'm going to hit pause though. Maybe I am going into detail. In this gorgeous bag is my half and half, and I tend to accidentally knit things that are slightly popular. The first time I knitted this was kind of because my D&D group were, and I wanted to join in, and to also see if I could understand why people wanted to knit them, and if they did, why they knitted it multiple times. I don't know that I would knit it multiple times if it wasn't for my modification, and that is a very simple modification. Whoa, let's not. I'm in the middle of a row. Oh dear. It's been a while, but this section was naturally dyed by Kelsey, who designed the Chained Oblivion, and inspired by each of our D&D characters, which makes it the most special, which is why I put it into a blanket that I'm predominantly knitting while playing or relaxing in the evenings. And this is going to be a blanket for the sofa, so we can snuggle under it. I'm not going to list all the yarns otherwise, because there's quite a few in here already. But I knitted the first section, and the modification that I did was to, instead of, so you knit one triangle, you cast on all the stitches, and then you decrease every row until you're to the top of the triangle. And then what you do is you knit back down, and then you start increasing so your rows get longer to get the full square. Sorry, covering my face. What I did is I knitted down, back up, and then backward loop cast on all the stitches, and I'm working in a decrease again. And I just find that when your rows are getting shorter, the motivation, the joy kind of stays. And I don't think it would be fine getting longer, but I do think there's something a bit nicer knowing that it's getting shorter. So that's what I've done. And I've done a little bit. I've done a couple of inches in the last couple of days. I'm at a point where I want to work on these projects because I've got so many fun ideas rattling around my brain that I would love to get going on, but I don't want to overwhelm myself. But I'd like to have the choice of projects to work on. So I pulled this back out as kind of this is a super gentle in-between project that has to live at home. Because it's just there's so many potential yarns going into it. I don't really want to be taking this around with me. But she's starting to look quite good, I think. I'm using a 6-sided dice to get the random striping for it. I'm really enjoying it. It's a super simple project. If you're someone that maybe gets anxious and like needs to have how do we feel about that? I don't know. But if you do feel like you need to have a project on the go, and you've say finished a couple of projects, and you're like, oh, now what do I do? I think this is a really good one to have because it can last. It can be a fairly speedy project. My first one knitted up quite quickly because it was just bringing me so much joy. I used some hand spun. I used some yarns that had a little bit of meaning to me. I think that helps. But yeah, I think it's one for those sort of anxious times where you don't want to recklessly cast something on that you're not going to use, but you want something a bit gentle. This requires almost no thinking once you get going. And then if you're doing colour play, you can be as creative as you want. Like you could, if you were interested in doing dice, you could roll a 20-sided dice. You could just do a 6. You could do a 4-sided dice if you wanted to keep the momentum, keep it changing. So I think it's a really fun project to do. I did consider doing an eye cord edge as I went, but I'm really happy with how mine looks, and I'm looking over there because little Audrey is curled up on my one. I'll get a little bit of footage for you. Yeah, it is a really good pattern, very easy to modify. You could cast on less stitches, you could cast on more if you wanted to do it for like, say, a double bed. If you were using, and even if you're not using, if you wanted, I think you could very easily use up all of your oddments, even the 2 meter length. So using a magic knot and just keep going and putting anything that's left over from projects into it. There's just lots of good options for this, and I think it's a really fun project to work on, and it's popular kind of for that reason. But yeah, I'm really enjoying how it's looking so far. It's super hard to show you on here. It has felt quite nice to come back to this project after a while. I do think it might go back upstairs to the bedroom since it's getting darker, we kind of want to watch an episode of something or like a little YouTube video before we settle in, because we're finding ourselves go to bed a little bit earlier. So I think I might put that back upstairs for nighttime knitting again. But enjoying it. And finally, I've finished a couple of spinning projects. Not my big green spinning project where I'm spinning 400 grams of yarn for hopefully a garment project, but I finished my Manx and Silk blend from Bellevue Fibres. I'm so happy with it. Ooh. A delivery for my parents. yeah, sorry about that little interlude. Yeah, I've been working on this on my Bosworth spindle. I can't remember the size or anything of this. I am a plonker, but it is, I just love it so much. It spins beautifully. It brings me so much joy. But I finished it. So this is a 2-ply. It comes in at, I think, 326 meters, and there's 70 grams here. And that is for a reason. So I was going to do the whole lot, but I decided to keep a little bit back since I knew that this is going to go into the Galdor by Marina Skewer, and it would either use sort of 25 grams or 65 grams depending on what of the contrast colours I used it for. So I didn't need the 400 grams, and it means I can put some of that fibre into another project, whether I in the future blend it back into something with something else, or I just spin it specifically for a small quantity for another project. So I didn't end up spinning it all, but I think I've got the perfect amount, and it is quite consistent. There are a few moments that bring me so much joy to see, like here where Alex had a little go at spinning when we were at Chiltern Open Air Museum. I have been trying for a little while now to not spin so tightly and to let some bounce be there, and I think I've achieved that with this. There are moments where I started to go a little bit finer and spin a little bit tighter, put a little bit more twist into it, but overall I'm quite happy with it, and I can't wait for the moment when I knit this into a project and it gives me yet another smile. It happened when I was plying it, and then happened again when I was knotting it, and then yeah, it's just really special. The way I produced this was using my drop spindle, and once I had done the first half I wound it onto a bobbin, did the second half, wound it onto a bobbin, and then used my DIY lazy cape to ply onto my wheel, or plied using my wheel terminology, just for ease really. I was going to ply this with my drop spindle, but by that point I was already quite excited about trying something different, so I used my little wheel, and I'm very happy with the result. I'm quite excited to use this, but it's had a bath and it's just going to get put aside for a little bit. This is way more rough and ready. There's I've put a few knots in it and tied it with some big Alaphos sloppy, so it doesn't look right, but this was a fun little project that I did over the weekend too. I did this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then finished plying it Monday evening. And it is a blend of white-faced woodland with a touch of silk, just a tiny touch of silk in it, that is from a local farm, so that's really special. A little bit from the yarn that went into this batch of fibre. But yeah, I tried even more to let this be area, not too spun or overplied, and I think I've got there. There are moments where I didn't quite card it so smooth and I let it be a little bit more bumpy, a little bit more rustic, but here it is. This one I did entirely on the drop spindle. I did a single ply of the whole lot of the fibre and then went in from the double pull ball method. That's a mouthful for some reason. and plied from one single ball onto the drop spindle. And I got 100 metres for just under 50 grams. 108 metres it is for 46 grams, I think. So it's a nice weight. And I'm definitely getting better at not overspinning it and being able to control it more in terms of I can choose if I want to add more ply and fineness to it, or I can let it be a little bit more wild. So I'm quite happy where I am. I'm feeling like I can do a bit of both, and I'm keeping that muscle memory rather than instinctively and only going to knit, spin finely. So yeah, quite happy. And I'm really enjoying dyeing and blending this fibre. So I washed this and dyed it and carded it all myself. I think I might need to get a little bit more of an oomphy washing up liquid, or maybe even a proper scouring soap to really do better in the future, but I'm happy with this. It's nice to have a little local wool in my life, and I think there's going to be more of this in the future, and I'm very excited to move towards fleece to garments or fleece to accessories projects in the future. I've been thinking a lot about cushions and making a couple of cushions for the house using either local wools or knitting machine maybe, but also it'd be fun to do some hand spun, hand knitted, cabled ones. There's just lots of fun projects on the horizon that would fill me with joy, and it's really nice to be moving towards, a slower, more, I don't know, I don't want to use the word spiritual, but it feels a bit more like ritualistic, and all these things really are in my little heart at the moment. So yeah, I will stop being, I'm not going to stop being me, but yeah, I think that's everything. Lots of love in my projects, lots of joy in my projects. Feeling very grateful to be surrounded by lovely makers at the moment. Sitting and making time to have coffee and talk about crafts with joy is just such a treat. I feel very grateful right now. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop waffling, but I'll leave you with some footage of Walberswick. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you have a lovely week no matter what you get up to. I hope to see you next week. May your projects bring you lots of joy. I hope that maybe this did a little bit to inspire you to reflect on your projects. I think the changing of the seasons often does this to me. There's like a little bit of reflection and movement and like acknowledgement of change. It's just nice. Yeah, look after yourself. May your projects bring you lots of joy. May you maybe find time to reflect on what brings you joy and add more of that into your life. Don't forget to love each other, and I hope to see you again very soon. Wow, hopefully you've got a spare pair of shoes, trousers. I'll put my stuff down, I'll pick you up. Come on, I'll give you a piggyback.
saved us some time, you know.
Oh, yeah.